few emails from people with the making sure they have the right link. So let me just make sure there's nobody else. So it looks like we are officially 12 o'clock.
Okay.
One more person in, and we'll go ahead and get started. I'll keep letting people in as we go. We are recording, just so people do know about that. Anyway, hello. In case anybody doesn't know me, I'm Tyreen Reuter, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm filling in for Patricia Lucas-Schneer today. She's the Chamber's Vice President, and she's the one that came up with the idea for this Restarting Your Business series, which began back in late April. And every week we've had one or two different free online sessions open to everyone, dealing with topics critical to what's going on right now in terms of networking, website, SWOT analysis, mindfulness, all different kinds of things. And this is a perfect one to be the last one in our official weekly series, since we're launching boldly into the new world next week. And I really appreciate Western Pest, our chamber member, offering to come on and give us a run through of getting prepared to open back up. So I'm going to not attempt to butcher the title, entomologist. Did I get that right?
You got it.
So Shannon Sked from Western Pest is going to take us through his program and run through a series of slides. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat box and I will make sure to bring them up at the end. So no need to kind of interrupt unless there's something really critical going on. Okay, so without further ado, thank you very much, Shannon, and Steve and Lisa also from Western Pest for participating.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name's Shannon Sked. I am an entomologist with Western Pest. I also oversee our innovations programs. And after this pandemic started really taking root, we were looking at what we could do. So we designed a program around a disinfecting service. And I'm going to go, hopefully in the next, I think it's only like 6 or 7 slides, not that long, but hopefully it answers some of the more glaring questions that were coming out pretty regularly once we launched it several weeks back. So the idea here is that a lot of the questions that we were getting once we launched the program, some of them I was expecting, some of them I was completely, not thinking that was what we would be getting asked. So I put those together, and then hopefully this presentation will address those. And then if there are any other questions at the end, we could discuss that as well. But it's basically just a general information session about what disinfection is and what our program entails. So the first question that I get a lot is, and it was actually probably the most overwhelming question I got initially, was why is pest control getting involved in disinfecting services? It doesn't make any sense. It's looked at as a completely different service offering. But the truth of the matter is it's actually regulated under the same law, the FIFRA law, and it's overseen by the same exact regulatory body, the EPA. As a matter of fact, any disinfectant, sanitizer, or sterilizer that's out on the market is actually a registered pesticide. So because of that, pest control companies, which already have training and licensing in place for pesticide application, are already set up to be able to apply these disinfectants as well. The other piece to this is the industry as a whole, through our National Pest Management Association and Western specifically with our company Compass and our vision statements. We have a lot of these value statements that are out there. And when you think about what disinfecting a service can do in a situation like this, and you take a look at these value statements in the middle here, it really builds a case for a really strong business alignment, which will create this mission to help. Which all these value statements are all about helping and protection. So when you put those two pieces together, we're already a compliance entity involved in this, and we also have these value statements. It just made a lot of sense for us to get on board and basically just do a couple tweaks to be able to formalize this and put this together. So The next question is, okay, so what is disinfecting? And why is it disinfecting and not sanitizing or sterilizing or cleaning? Well, those are all three or four actually very well-defined terms by the CDC and the FDA. We went with disinfecting because really what we want to do is we want to kill microbes. That is the whole game plan here, is to get rid of these pathogenic microbes, SARS-CoV-2 being the one that everybody is targeting right now. Whereas sanitation is actually getting those microbes down to a level that's deemed safe by a public body. Well, that really doesn't exist in our current situation because there is no safe level for COVID-19, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So because of that, it really is a disinfecting service. Sterilization is actually getting rid of everything 1,000%, and that's more specific for things like operating rooms and hospitals and things like that. And cleaning is just removal of dirt, grease, and grime on the surface of different types of surfaces. It is not killing anything. So when you take a look at those four statements and what we are offering, it's actually a disinfecting service. It differs from residual services. You might have heard, that's another question I got a lot about, was I heard that this will last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And unfortunately, specifically for viruses, that is not true at all. There is no real residual product that works on viruses, because viruses don't, what residual products do is they prevent bacteria and fungi from reproducing. Well, viruses don't reproduce outside of the body. So because of that, it won't actually do anything over a residual period. And as a matter of fact, all the residuals that I've been able to find, there's only one that is effective on a foodborne pathogen, and everything else has been for these odor-causing molds and odor-causing bacteria. So it actually is a kill at the time, and then you move on. When we were looking at what we were going to select, we actually started out with what's called the EPA List N. You guys might have heard about this by now. It's pretty much well out there. You can Google it and take a look at it. It's not a secret. There's a little bit over 400 different products that are on this List N. And what the List N is for is EPA, it takes months, if not years, for a registration to get through so that you can actually list a new pathogen onto these disinfectants. They have to do all kinds of studies and everything for the EPA to go through that registration process. What the EPA said is we don't have that time. We want to get this stuff out there for COVID-19 now. So they created a List N, which basically says it meets the EPA's criteria for use against SARS-CoV-2, which is the causal agent, the virus that causes COVID-19. So we started with that. It was going to be something that was on that list because we wanted to make sure that whatever we used in our program was going to be a part of the fight against the pandemic. So that's one thing that most people were asking about, and I said, simply, if you want to know, just look at the List N, and it'll tell you whether or not it's on there. We also wanted to use one that had this, what we found was, and there was, as of a couple weeks ago, only 2 products that were like this, that have this unique combination of a chlorine dioxide and quaternary ammonia compounds. I'm not using bad language. Those are actually what they're called. 2 different types of active ingredients, which when they're combined, they have this unique capability of both being very effective, very, very strong disinfectant, but at the same time being risk adverse or safe. So I'll go through those pretty quickly. In the product that we chose, it has a 99.999% efficacy rating against about 50 different types of diseases and foodborne pathogens that are out there. So it's very strong. It also, these last 3 bullets kind of take you through the safety features of this. It's actually listed by the EPA as toxicity category 4. It's their lowest toxicity category. And in the EPA's language on describing that category, it's basically or practically non-toxic and not an irritant. There's actually no signal word like caution, danger, or poison on the label. It's also listed as D2 by NSF International. So that's more specific for food industry, for the food process industry. But basically what that means is in those environments, if it gets sprayed onto a food contact surface, you don't have to wipe it down, rinse it off, or wash it off. It's basically once it's dry, it's fine. And that's actually just to kind of hone in on how relatively safe this is to environment and people. And then there's also no VOX, no volatile organic compounds that are ozone depleting. So it's got this really, really strong aspect with these really, really safe features. So that's the product that we chose. Just as importantly as what you choose is how you actually apply it. And so we have a 3-step process. It's pretty simple. It's a preparation, a wipe down, and a mist. The preparation is really revolves around 2 things. One, not damaging things, because everything is going to get wet during this process. So just think about, we're going to be spraying this mist everywhere. So papers, pictures that aren't covered by glass in a frame or things like that, if they can be damaged by getting wet, then you're going to want to have those things stowed away. And then there should be a general cleaning. Now remember, a couple slides back, I said that cleaning is just the physical removal of dirt, grease, grime, debris, dust, just garbage. The reason why we got to get that garbage off of these surfaces is that what's going to happen is the disinfectant is going to settle down onto these surfaces, and these pathogenic bacteria, viruses, and fungi are actually sitting on those hard non-contact or non-porous contact surfaces. Because of that, what we need to do is we need to get that product to where the virus is, which means it needs to be cleaned. Once the prep is done, we'll come in and we actually have this 2-part process of disinfecting. The first is the wipe down. And the reason why that's important is all the scientific literature is very clear about where these pathogenic microbes exist on these high contact surfaces in very, very disproportionate numbers. Basically what that means is your light switches, your phones, different things that door handles, things like that are going to have the highest concentration of these particles, either virus particles, bacteria, pathogens, and things like that. So we want to make sure that we get it, because when we do the second part, which is the misting, it's going to be applied to the front and to the tops of all these surfaces very well, but it may not necessarily get underneath or behind it as well. So by wiping down, we get to those spaces that otherwise misting wouldn't necessarily get to. We use a backpack applicator that's electric. It's not electrostatic. It's not needed. The product that we use is already positively charged, so it has all the surfactant and stickiness that it needs. It's just a matter of making sure we get to the product to the areas where it's needed. And so that's the reason why we have this 3-step process in total: preparation, wipe down, and then misting as we have it outlined here. Once that's done, once it's dry, people can re-enter. So there's no wipe down, washing, or rinse off that's needed, as I mentioned before. Everybody can come in. Just to be honest, one of the things that I tell everybody is just be prepared, because you might want to wipe down some contact surfaces like metals or glasses once it dries, because it can leave a residue, but that's for aesthetics, not for safety reasons. You'll also get the same great service that you know from Western. So the same technicians that have been providing you with pest control services for years and years are also doing this work as well with disinfecting. So because of that, you're going to get the same value-added customer care and all the qualities that you've come to expect from your technicians with this service, as well as with your pest control. And the benefit is you have the assurance that your environment's been disinfected. As a matter of fact, we are offering a certificate of disinfectant. I have a picture of it here on this slide. And basically, that's just a document that says that on this day, your area was disinfected. It's a document that might be supportive for you down the road. So that's it. That's the program in a nutshell. I know that was pretty technical in some cases, in some areas. I do apologize for that, but it's hard to talk about this with toxicology without understanding that. I could tell you that understanding the chemistry is given us a lot of good relief on the way that our product has been designed and the way that our service offering has been designed. And because of that, I think that we have a really good service program offering that kind of meets the need that's out there right now. So with that, there are other good programs out there. So any questions that you guys have, please let me know. Feel free to ask.
Thank you, Shannon. That was great. One question I know someone asked that wasn't going to be able to come today, so I'm going to share the video afterwards. They're feeling overwhelmed and a little confused by all the things the state is asking them to do in terms of reopening. And so, like, what criteria, and again, I am pretty overwhelmed by it too, to be honest. Do you have some kind of guidance on what criteria is met by what your cleaning program does?
So the criteria that it should be based off of what the guidelines are, whether it's a state, the CDC, under the federal government guidelines for reopening. I am always referring everybody to CDC right now, because the state, there is a lot of back and forth. But even at that, you could look at what the CDC has said during this pandemic, and they've gone back and forth on things. You know, we knew at first that the face masks weren't something that they were thinking was going to be helpful. Now it is. So when it comes to reopening, it's going to be very vertical specific. And what I mean by that is it's going to be based off of what type of, what it really comes down to is how many people are going to be coming into an indoor environment on a routine basis and how many people are going to be touching surfaces. So you can have a certain environment like an office, and it's going to be the same people going in and they're separated out. You move cubicles around or desk spaces around or offices so that everybody is kind of separated out. That's going to be a relatively lower risk, and you may not need this as routinely. You might be fine with doing some type of internal cleaning and then disinfecting on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. Again, depending on how many people are there or if you have a case. And then you can have environments like, say, a fitness center where there are tons of high touch point areas. That is the most, as far as disinfecting services, that's the most important thing. So things like fitness centers, they may want to actually do their own internal on a daily basis and have us come in weekly to do an industrial disinfecting. So it really depends on those different environments, and your representative for Western should be able to help you with that, or whoever it is that you're working with. They should be able to talk you through what those different things are. Because you're right, it is very confusing. The
Yeah,
reason it's
there's a lot of
confusing is so specific.
mhm.
It is.
Yeah. So I think people are looking for guidance on what their industry specifically needs to do, and if they have a checklist that's given to them by a municipality or the state, that they can talk to, their consultant with you and say this is what needs to be done, and they feel uncomfortable becoming experts in the cleaning process themselves, along
Yeah.
with all the other stuff that they're trying to do.
One recommendation that I would make is for the commercial sector is that there are associations for almost every single vertical market that's out there. So there's the Restaurant Association of America, there's the New Jersey Apartment Association for multifamily housing. I would actually make sure that your members are engaged with their various associations, because they're actually kind of taking the lead on what's needed for this type of environment versus what's needed for different types of environment.
Yeah. One of the other questions was regarding pets. Is this material that you use safe for pets?
So the pets cannot be in, or people cannot be in during treatment, but once it's dry, it's absolutely benign. So there's no issue with pets coming back in. Same as people. Once it's dry, everybody can re-enter. The only caveat to that is fish tanks. We will cover fish tanks with plastic just to make sure that none of it gets into the water while the treatment's going on. But outside of that, it's like I said, this unique chemistry combination where it's very strong, but it has these safety features is one of the things that we really liked about it, because it does allow people and pets to come back in once it's dry.
That's great. If anybody else has questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put it into the chat. Steve and Lisa, if there are things you want to add, please do. It's a whole new subject for us. So.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
One thing I think Shannon forgot to add is we do have window stickers now that we're able to, in addition to the certificate that you can have and put in a file, we have a window sticker that could adhere to a storefront, that could put a date or a frequency of cleaning to give the customers some sort of, satisfaction of safety, comfort level of going into that facility that's been cleaned.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, people with most of what's going to happen between customers happening outside right now. It's a valid, very useful thing. Any of our other participants? We have some people from the public library here. I'm not sure if they were looking for any guidance in terms of the fact, that's not quite a fitness center, but the in and out customers that they have all day, I'm sure is a big issue for them when they go to reopen. I think a lot of them are just in on their phone though, so may not be able to.
The library is very interesting because there's actually there's a lot of research. I was actually just on a couple microbiology assessments last Thursday and Friday with Dr. Schaffner out of Rutgers University, and there's a international consortium of scientists that are looking at all this stuff, and some of the stuff is coming out that's pretty interesting. We've heard some of the early stuff that was in the Journal of Medical. I think it was New England Journal of Medical about the how long these virus particles actually stay on certain types of surfaces between copper and stainless steel, cardboard, etc. So if you think about that from a library perspective, you have a lot of things that have porous materials. These books are made out of paper and cardboards and different things like that. Not saying that there's no risk there, there is, but it's a much lower risk than things like the shelving, which is stainless steel. So that might be something where, you know, there is high contact, but the high contact area where cross contamination is going to be the biggest risk is going to be where the librarian's office areas are, the phones, all those high touch areas, the doors where people come in and out, and then the shelving. Outside of that,
And probably the computer stations as well, right?
that's right. Computer
Yeah.
stations are going to be high risk as well because they're plastic.
One of the librarians did put a question in. She said, "Hi, we were interested in finding out more about how long the cleaning is good for." And I think you touched on that at one point, but maybe if you could, she might not have been in the room at the time when you went over that, so if you could go over that again, that'd be great.
So there is a lot of things that we've heard about claims that are being made about 30, 60, 90-day residual activity. And I've actually gone in and gotten the products, the chemistries that I've seen when I've seen those claims. And there's some true but not true to that. So I want to kind of go through that, hopefully not too detailed, but enough where it'll make sense. What those products are called microbiostatics. And basically they have a polymer coat on the chemicals that allow them to last for a longer period of time. And they do have claims of lasting 30, 60, 90 days, sometimes 6 months. There's one product I saw that lasts for 6 months. However, what those products are lasting for, what they actually are targeting in that residual activity is odor-causing bacteria and odor-causing molds. There's one product that I saw that's actually can take care of 2 different foodborne pathogens, but nothing for disease-causing pathogens, including SARS-CoV-2. So unfortunately for us, with disinfecting and the fact that this is a virus, there really is no residual. The reason why is because viruses can only reproduce inside of their host body. And what these microbiostatics do is they prevent what's called sporulation, which is a type of growth that bacteria and fungi can have, but viruses don't have. So it will not do anything to actually stop viruses. So in other words, after the treatment is done, if the next day somebody comes in and they're an asymptomatic carrier or symptomatic and they cough, they can actually spread virus particles onto those surfaces and it would need to be disinfected again.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's probably a lot for public buildings like that to figure out. So
that's why I think the schedule is really important. The idea of having an internal cleaning program using, you know, just general wipe downs like you would in a normal cleaning. Maybe you introduce some disinfectants into that, but then have an industrial disinfecting service done on some type of frequency, whether it's monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever that case may be. And that is going to be that when I said that was the specific part, that's the part where it's going to be really on how many people you have coming through, how transient is it, how many contact areas do you have that you need to worry about.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Anyone else have questions? I will definitely make sure everybody who registered for the program, I'll make sure they get the recording and obviously your information and that flyer that you guys have hopefully put together for us to share with members in order to sign up for this kind of thing. Let's see, I'm not seeing any more questions.
Hey,
Steve,
Tyreen.
Lisa?
I just want one thing, just if anybody's interested in getting a proposal for this free proposal, we can come out and take a look at the space and make a recommendation about, you know, what areas we think we should treat, you know, to what capacity we should treat the facility. So that's no cost to anybody for us to come out and take a look. Okay.
That's great. Yeah, to get an idea of what they're looking at. All right. So I guess we're good. Out of it a little bit earlier than if anybody has anything else. Otherwise, I will end the session for the day. And like I said, I'll send this out to everybody on the email list and our general membership too. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.